Hey guys, my name is Matsumio, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Bailey, and it is, what do you think about an attacking operator in Rainbow Six Siege who has some sort of X-ray ability like Mira's Gadget mixed with Pulse's heartbeat sensor? So what it sounds like is that you want another attacking operator that simply gathers information for your team. You can place this on a wall, maybe put it down on the ground, and then figure out what's going on in the opposite room. You can see their heartbeats, maybe you see their skeletons, their X-ray skeletons, I'm not exactly sure how it would work, and then you would be able to relay that information to your team or simply take advantage of it yourself. Maybe breach on through, shoot on through the wall, and take them down. Now, admittedly, this doesn't sound all that bad because essentially you're just giving offense the ability to use Pulse's gadget, yet you would need to be stationary. Pulse can, of course, move around the map. He doesn't need to be stationary or sit in one spot to take advantage of his gadget. And so if Ubisoft is okay with having that mechanic on one operator that can roam around, why not give it to the offensive team? While yes, it sounds like everyone on the offense would be able to take advantage of it, you can only put it down in one location. That doesn't seem too unreasonable. From my point of view, I don't like this whatsoever because I despise the very existence of Pulse. In a game like Rainbow Six Siege, I find it baffling that they added in an operator where everything is practically destructible. You can shoot through pretty much every single wall in this game. Why they would add in an operator who can see through said walls? Now, admittedly, your suggestion may not actually be as bad as I'm thinking that it will because you say that it's a mix between Mira and Pulse. If it functions just like Mira, where everyone on the opposite side of the wall sees that this gadget has been placed, then it may not be so bad. It's like, okay, they've got that gadget on the wall, let's move away, let's shift a little bit so that they're not able to shoot at us or breach on in and know exactly where we're located. Like, that doesn't seem too unreasonable. One of the things I never really liked about Pulse is that he's not very interactive with the person who's on the receiving end. I'm sure you guys have experienced this, where a Pulse is below a window, he's the floor below, he tosses C4 onto the roof, he waits for someone to jump through said window, you don't hear the C4 because it's below in a completely different room. You don't hear his gadget, of course, so you don't know that he's there, and then when you jump on in, he takes you down. You had no idea that that was coming, and it's incredibly frustrating. Those are the kind of moments, and that's the kind of gameplay that I despise in Rainbow Six Siege, and I want to completely avoid having something like that or a new operator that would have that kind of interaction. And so all in all, well, I do find this really interesting. You're combining two different mechanics, bringing them together, and creating a brand new operator. Like, I think that's really cool. The only way that I would be on board with it is if it was very obvious that the gadget was on the wall so that defense could act accordingly. I want to avoid any and all gameplay that isn't interactive, and that would be the only way that I'd want to see something like this added into Rainbow Six Siege. The next question is, what is your opinion on the recent barbed wire nerf? So now that we've had a chance to play with these changes for a while, I feel like they are reasonable. Before this update, if you came across a sea of barbed wire and you didn't have the tools to work around it, you were basically out of luck, and it was almost insurmountable. If you had to go through 3 barbed wire as, let's say, thermite, for example, you don't have a nade and you don't have Ash's breaching charge, there's no way you're getting through there. Either you're gonna have to melee them basically 9 times, 3 barbed wire, that's gonna leave you incredibly vulnerable, slow you down, someone's gonna round the corner and take you out, or you're gonna have to slowly wade through all of that, making a lot of noise, and once again, the enemy is gonna be alerted of your presence, round the corner, and take you down as well. It basically just got to the point where everyone on defense was running this gadget because why wouldn't you? If you could get 9 of these things scattered around the map, it was something that offense had to deal with, and a lot of the times it wasn't something they could deal with, and you won simply because of that gadget, or it made things significantly easier. Now, that isn't to say that barbed wire is now useless. I still think it is the preferred and honestly still the best gadget that you can have on defense for most situations, but it does allow the other gadgets to have more of a presence. If you run the deployable shield, it's not as much of a downside as it was before because barbed wire simply was that good. Having impact grenades is now a much more viable option on different operators like Ella, for example, because it's not as required as it was in the past. And so all in all, I've been really happy with this adjustment on both sides. When I'm playing on defense, it's still really good, but when I'm on offense, it's much more manageable. Not only can I feel like I can get through towards the objective faster, I can actually kind of surprise the enemy a bit if they're not directly on the gadget itself. But also, if I do need to take it down, hitting it just twice compared to 3 is a significant improvement, especially when you need to get through multiple barbed wires. And so, yep, I think this was a great step in the right direction. The next question comes from Rambo, and it is, since not many people use shotguns in Rainbow Six, what do you think about a feature where shotguns are able to two-shot barbed wire to get rid of it? Now that is a very unique suggestion that I have never heard before. As we all know, shotguns right now in Siege don't see much play on offense, and that's for a lot of reasons. One of the biggest ones is that you have to close the gap on the enemy, and that can be quite difficult for the offensive team. On defense, you don't really have that problem. You have to wait for offense to push on forward, of course, if they want to play the objective, and that gives you a lot of options to kind of set up ambushes. You wait behind a doorway, they have to come to you, you don't have to worry about running out into the open, leaving yourself exposed, and so as long as you play it right on the defensive team, shotguns can actually be really, really effective. That, of course, isn't the way it works for the attacking team. You're the instigator. You eventually have to push towards the objective, you have to run out in the long hallway, and that, of course, is where the shotgun is going to struggle most. And so what I find intriguing about this idea is that not only would this change up the meta a little bit, which we'll get to here in a second, but it would just be a small buff to shotguns. If now you no longer have to worry about barbed wire anymore, that's no longer a hindrance. Sure, the enemy is going to kind of know where you're coming from because you're going to make a lot of noise. You're using a shotgun blast. They're going to hear you. But you can then take advantage of your speed to hopefully win those firefights. This would also probably have a small impact on the meta because in some cases, if the defensive team is just going crazy with barbed wire, instead of bringing operators that have access to nades, you could just bring someone who's using a shotgun. You take all of them out from a distance and then you're good to go. You can push on the objective no problem. Now, the real question is though, is this even necessary? We literally just talked about in the last question how barbed wire feels much more balanced right now, and this would be a further nerf to it. Now, I don't think everyone would all of a sudden start to run around with these weapons. I don't think it would be that extreme, but I would bet a pretty penny that Buck would see a lot more play. Buck would become incredible. Not only does he have access to nades, but now his skeleton key can not only deal with basically every wall except a reinforcement, but he can now take out barbed wire with 2 shots from a distance. That's a really big buff to him. This could also shift the meta in a direction where at least one person on offense always uses a shotgun to deal with this gadget. That might be too much of a nerf. Barbed wire is really important. Like, if you don't have barbed wire, it's a noticeable difference. Yes, Ella and Legion have kind of slowed things down as well, but you still need barbed wire. You need to have that hindrance for offense, and if you don't have it, a lot of times they just rush on in and completely overwhelm you. And so if all of a sudden you no longer have barbed wire anymore because they're just getting taken out by shotguns, that just might be too powerful. And so while I do love this idea, I think that it's very unique, I don't necessarily know if this is the right buff to make. Yes, it eliminates one of its biggest weaknesses, but it also might have some larger rippling repercussions that might be a bad thing for the game in general. It's kind of hard to say. The next question comes from Johnny, and it is, what is your opinion on adding more ranks into Siege? For example, maybe a titanium rank. I am not opposed to that idea whatsoever. I think that Diamond does a good job of demonstrating who are the best players in the game. I think they wanted to bring it down to like top 2% or something like that. Like, those are the best players. Like, that's really good. But if there was a titanium rank, that would really show who is the cream of the crop. Someone who got diamond for the very first time may be better than 95% of the player base out there, but you compare them to the best of the best, the ones that are like 1,000 points into diamond, it's not a competition. They are so far above everyone else that it would be nice to have that distinction. Like, yes, diamond is great, but there are clearly people in that diamond that are at a completely different level, and if there was this titanium rank or whatever they wanted to call it, I'm on board with that. Is this necessary? Absolutely not, but it could bring in some bragging rights. Like, they could do what they did with Overwatch, where if you're like top 200, top 500, I can't remember, it's been a long time since I played that, it literally says what rank you are in your region. Like, you are literally 250 out of every single player in your region. That's really cool. Or they could do like the Master League with what they do with League of Legends. And so yeah, I'm on board with this. It's not required, it's not something that is necessarily needed to be added into the game, but it could could add kind of something for people to strive after, especially those people that are really, really good. They play all the time. They want to be the best of the best. This could be a really cool addition into the game. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Would you like to have a Titanium League added into Rainbow Six Siege? Do you think that's a good idea? Do you think that's a bad idea and not necessary? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.